It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. Go get 'em, George.
George Galloway, and the mother of all talk shows. Welcome to the Open University of the Airwaves with George Galloway.
The dangerous derangement of Donald Trump continues to derail his presidency on everything from the bombing of the Syrian presidential palace to the Epstein affair. And most dangerously of all, Trump had a little surprise for the Russians. Turned out not to be so little. A 50-day ultimatum, after which economic warfare will rage right across the world, perhaps hotly pursued by missiles, bombs, rockets, and shells. It's all coming up here tonight on the mother of all talk shows. Stay tuned.
Curious about our curriculum? Have something to say? Then call us now to join the debate on the mother of all talk shows. The only education you can get for free. George Galloway, the mother of all talk shows. With George Galloway, the world is our classroom, and you're welcome to sit in and join the seminar.
There are advancing signs of senility in the White House, again, for the second president running. Say what you like about Barack Obama, but at least he had his marbles, even if he squandered them in achieving precisely nothing, maybe the opposite of nothing, in his two presidential campaign terms. But the Joe Biden era, where AutoPen was really in charge, has been followed by Donald Trump, who is lurching dangerously, leaping from one area of concern to another in the world and becoming increasingly incoherent and otherworldly. It is simply otherworldly to pretend that there is no Epstein file. It is utterly an insult to the intelligence of his own base, first and foremost, the American people, secondly, and the world, thirdly, to pretend that the subject that he and his acolytes endlessly paraded as an emblem of the rottenness and corruption at the heart of Washington, now we're told we're stupid people if we continue to talk about it. Now we're told it was all a hoax. a hoax got up by Obama and Hillary Clinton. Absurd, I know, as Bill Clinton is the most heavily fingered individual in the entire Epstein affair, unless Hillary is trying to finally get rid of him. The idea that which Kash Patel and the Attorney General Bondi and the Vice President J.D. Vance and the presidential son Donald Trump Jr. and the president himself endlessly lambasted the Democrats about, we're now told, was actually a hoax by them. Nobody's buying it. The latest polls show a further precipitous drop in Donald Trump's presidential approval ratings, to the extent to which everybody in the Republican Party needs to be very worried indeed about the next test of opinion. In the midterm elections, it is highly likely, as Steve Bannon, once upon a time a heartbeat away from President Trump, has predicted, may lose the Republicans as many as 30 to 40 congressional seats, losing them control of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then Donald Trump will truly be up the Dnipro without a paddle. But the issue of his cognition, the issue of his ability to survive a Chapter 25, Article 25 challenge from within his own cabinet, an article which allows a cabinet to begin the removal of a president if he's no longer capable of carrying out his duties, is only one of our problems, because long before we get to that, Donald Trump may have plunged us into a maelstrom that will make the foregoing look like a tea party. I don't know where to start as I adumbrate them. Perhaps the most dangerous one of all. After claiming that he would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours, that he would end the Ukraine war before even taking up the reins of office, saying that he would end the Ukraine war in 70 days, 14 days. We're now 6 months on, and Biden's war has become Trump's war. There's no getting away from it. Donald Trump, with his pronunciamento on Monday, his little surprise for Russia, is pregnant with the terrifying danger of World War III. Let's just slowly take apart what it was that he decided to do. He's decided to massively escalate the flow of American arms to the Zelensky regime. That's the Zelensky regime he humiliated in front of the world's media in the Oval Office just a couple of short months ago, when he told them that he had no cards, when he told them that he shouldn't have started a war that he couldn't finish, when he told them that he was a little dictator, although he left the little out. He called them a dictator. He highlighted that Zelensky had no democratic mandate at all. He momentarily turned off the taps of intelligence and of weapons. Now he is massively opening the taps. He has promised a massive increase in the flow, in the value of military material going to Zelensky. If you want an idea of how important that decision was, let me give you just Mike Pompeo. You'll remember him, former Secretary of State, former head of the CIA, who was caught on tape saying, "We lied, we cheated, we stole." Every crime that the CIA has ever committed was admitted by its director, Mike Pompeo. He was too hawkish to get a job in Donald Trump's cabinet, though he tried very hard to do so. He shed his skin, losing 10 stone in weight, but his black heart remains intact. He welcomed Donald Trump's latest turn on Ukraine as the greatest thing since sliced bread, especially as he no longer eats it. Or I could give you Boris Johnson, the man who destroyed the prospects of a peaceful solution to the Ukraine question just a month or so after it had begun, when he flew to Kiev to insist that Zelensky fight on to the last drop of Ukrainian blood. Boris Johnson said that it was a welcome sign that Donald Trump was getting tough with the Russians. Let's get this on, let's get this over, said Boris Johnson. All the worst people in the world welcomed Donald Trump's turn to Zelensky, a turn to war, the path that might lead to World War III. And the people who had loyally supported Donald Trump the most, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the loss of Elon Musk will be as nothing compared to the loss of Steve Bannon and MAGA and Tucker Carlson and co, especially as there's now another party, Elon Musk's America Party, in which these individuals and many, many more may now seek safe harbor. The worst people in the world hailed Donald Trump's re-engagement with the war. The best people in his own movement disavowed it completely. He's doubled down on the issue of the cover-up of the child sex and prostitution ring around the Israeli intelligence asset, Jeffrey Epstein. Tucker Carlson sent shockwaves across the world in his speech last weekend, in which he made plain that which is obvious to anyone with eyes, that Epstein's affair was not just about sex, but about espionage and about compromise and the gathering of same from the rich and the powerful for later use. A later use which the less than gullible can only conclude includes Donald Trump. There is no other reason why Donald Trump would now seek to persuade us that there is no such thing as the Epstein affair, that it was all a hoax. There is no other reason why Donald Trump could possibly imagine that this could do other than rend his base asunder, as all of them had spent years demanding that they open the books to Jeffrey Epstein's spying and sex ring. But Trump has doubled down. Even when AG Bondi first said that she might look again at releasing some of the information, Trump again slapped her down. It doesn't exist. It's all a hoax. It's a Democratic Party hoax, which is presumably why Bill Clinton figures so heavily in it. And moreover, he doesn't want the support of people who continue to talk about it. This is political harikiri being conducted in broad daylight. He continues to run off at the mouth at any camera that points in his direction, saying the opposite of what he said yesterday and the opposite of what he'll say tomorrow. But every time he speaks, he hemorrhages another significant portion of the political support that propelled him to a second term in the White House. The Epstein affair isn't going away, you know, not least because there's a woman called Ghislaine Maxwell who is rotting in a federal penitentiary for a 20-year stretch without possibility of parole, who is determined to use the now non-existence of the Epstein affair, now that it is established that Epstein was not trafficking young girls to anybody. She's legitimately asking, how come then I am still in prison? And she's the one person who can blow the entire gaff. And she's threatening to do so unless she is released from prison. If she is released from prison by Donald Trump, by way of a presidential pardon, which now that the appeal has been turned down, is the only way I can see that it could be achieved, well, that will give the story even greater legs than Ghislaine Maxwell undoubtedly once upon a time had. But the most significant thing is Donald Trump's threat ultimatum, as if the Russian leadership, having fought so long and hard and made so many territorial gains, winning new villages and even towns and cities every single week, as if the devastation visited on the military-industrial complex of Ukraine was not so significant that the last thing in the world Vladimir Putin is going to do is accept an ultimatum from a failing presidency whose popularity is dropping like a stone. But that didn't stop Trump from delivering it. Again, to the cheers of all the worst people in the world, Trump has given Putin 50 days to make a deal with Volodymyr Zelensky, or 100% secondary tariffs will be imposed on everybody in the world who buys anything from Russia. Now, when I say secondary tariffs, when I say extraterritoriality, you better believe that even by the United States standards, this is quite a reach. Donald Trump is saying that if India buys oil from Russia to keep its burgeoning economy turning, then anything that India sells on to the United States, anything, will cost 100% more than it does today. Ditto with China, an even bigger enchilada. They are threatening China, which incidentally, on the day that the 50-day ultimatum runs out, Putin is where? In China, meeting who but Xi Jinping on a pre-arranged visit. So when that 50-day ultimatum elapses, the two leaders most concerned will be together in Beijing. The gall, the arrogance, the imperial hubris involved in threatening not punishment of Russia, but punishment of any and all countries who continue to do business with Russia, misses several important things. First, it seems to imply that selling things to the United States market is where it's at in the global economy, when in fact most countries in the world sell precious little to the United States and have other customers that they can sell what little they were selling to the United States and find those new customers very easily. But secondly, it seems to suppose that the countries being punished by Donald Trump will not retaliate. And I'm here to tell you that is the mother of all misconceptions. Let me just take two cases in point. Japan, already toiling under punitive American sanctions because of a perceived trade deficit, is seriously considering having a fire sale of American Treasury bonds in order to pay Trump's bill. A fire sale of American debt will create a conflagration throughout the world because it will collapse the price, the value of those American assets, those American Treasury bills. Once they start getting dumped, will collapse in value. And with their collapse in value will collapse the value of the dollar. More importantly, China, which has been slowly offloading the American bills that it holds, slowly distancing itself from the dollar, will now undoubtedly, rapidly and comprehensively ditch at whatever the short-term cost any American assets which it currently holds. And if China sells all of its American Treasury bills, it will create economic collapse in the United States. Because as I've been telling you for many years, China actually holds more dollars than the United States Treasury does itself. And China can afford, with 5.2% growth in just the last quarter, 5.2% growth in a quarter, China's economy can well withstand any temporary loss in selling American assets at a bargain basement price. But the United States cannot. But more significantly than that, China is beginning to realize, although it has always known that the final reckoning would be between the United States and China, China is beginning to recognize that the time for that final reckoning may be much, much closer to hand than they had in their timetable. The truth is, the Americans will not go quietly into the good night of second place, soon actually overtaken even by India, and thus in third place. Eventually overtaken by Africa, the richest continent in the world. The United States is going down. And the signs are that they're not going to go down quietly. I wish I had time to spend more than 1 minute on what happened in Damascus today, when despite all the offers of normalization, without the slightest care for the supine behavior of the new regime in Damascus, conceding the Golan Heights, conceding a whole tranche of Syrian territory as a buffer zone for Israel. Israel today bombed and I think destroyed the Syrian presidential palace, live on television. They did the same to the Syrian Defense Ministry. The proximate reason given was because the Takfiri savages of Al-Qaeda and ISIS were on a rampage of mass murder against the Druze minority in Syria. As if Israel cared about Syrian Druze. This is merely a cover for an attempt to completely dominate its neighbor Syria and to, if possible, divide the entire territory between itself and Mr. Erdogan's Turkey. And therefore, as someone who despises Golani, as someone who despises the regime in Damascus, when Israel bombs and attacks them, I stand with Syria. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. There's a legend on the line in Oklahoma. It's May on Trump. Welcome back, May.
Trump is using a magic 8-ball to make his decision. He apparently has completely lost whatever mind he had to begin with. This is just ridiculous. Does he really think anyone's going to believe that? I'm here to say, and I'm here to join you and everybody else, the emperor has no clothes on. He's as naked as they come. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure he got naked with some young people. And that is why he so desperately is trying to kill this whole Epstein thing. And he's just making it worse.
I'm wondering when Donald Trump knew that he was implicated in these Epstein files and what it was that he knew. That's the big question, because he wouldn't have been banging the Epstein drum all this time and then suddenly to pull the rug. That tells me that it was a late decision, that someone came late to Trump to say, you know, you really don't want to be doing that.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Well, a stunning poll this evening. Who should get the Nobel Peace Prize? Donald Trump or Francesca Albanese? It's a simple choice, really. But 43,469 people have already voted, and I'm only announcing it now. You can vote on my Telegram channel, t.me/George Galloway, on my X, on Twitter, on the YouTube community poll, or on the YouTube stream. If you're watching the show on the YouTube stream, don't forget, please, to subscribe to my channel. Give a thumbs up to the program and tell all your friends and contacts that we are now live broadcasting with some of the best guests, best calls, and best argument anywhere in the world. If you want to call the show, it's toll-free in the US and Canada, +1 844 944 3344. It is free of charge in Britain and Ireland, 0808 196 5522. And the worldwide number is 0044 203 966 2625. First guest this evening is the one and only Max Blumenthal, author, journalist, editor at the world's best news site, The Grayzone News. And as always, Max, a very hearty welcome to the show. Let's start, if we may, with the relatively breaking news that notwithstanding all their creeping and crawling and all their secret meetings in the UAE, the government of Syria is tonight under massive bombardment from the country they were going to normalize with, Israel. What's your reaction?
Well, Israel wants to appear as if it's the protector of the Druze community in southwestern Syria and Soweto, when Benjamin Netanyahu has on multiple occasions taken responsibility for the regime change operation that led to a rebranded al-Qaeda ISIS government taking power in Damascus, which has created this entire catastrophe, with sectarian gangs first attacking the Alawites on the coast and now turning their attention to the Druze. And after that, it will be the Christians. Tom Barak, Trump's ambassador to Turkey, has given the green light to these sectarian gangs to attack the Druze. And then after giving the green light, now the Trump administration says that it's working out some kind of resolution between Israel and Syria. Israel has just attacked Damascus, attacked downtown Damascus, attacking the defense ministry. It's possible that the Syrian president Jolani has gone into hiding after the several Israeli officials called for his killing. And what's going on in Israel is that the Druze in Israel, who all serve in the military, who are probably the most powerful non-Jewish constituency inside Israel, have been demanding a response from Netanyahu. And Netanyahu also wants to pivot away from Gaza and get at least some kind of 60-day pause there. And so he has to appear tough before the fascists in his coalition, and attacking Syria is the best way. So no matter how, as you said, supine the government in Damascus is with respect to Israel, they're still getting hit hard and attacked in ways they never were before this regime change operation succeeded.
Quite so, and the Netanyahu case was again abandoned or postponed, I should say, today in the court, precisely because of the bombardment of Syria. It seems that anytime he's got to face the judicial music, all he has to do is launch a new stage of a pre-existing war. What do you think the attitude of the Israeli public is likely to be to this? Because, I mean, Netanyahu is now fighting on multiple fronts, or maybe they like it that way.
Well, the Israeli public is fractured and splintered, and Netanyahu is the master of playing off of it. And he has his own base in the same way Donald Trump does that supports virtually anything he does, although it's a very narrow base. He just needs to keep his coalition together. That means appeasing the fascist Bezalel Smotrich, who wants to keep war going indefinitely in Gaza and in the region. And it also means appeasing the Haredi or ultra-Orthodox parties. And in an otherwise worthless, extremely long New York Times investigation, we learned that Netanyahu had prevented his government from collapsing right ahead of his unprovoked assault on Iran on June 13th, 2 days before, by giving a secret classified briefing to the head of the United Torah Judaism Party, which was about to leave his coalition over forcing ultra-Orthodox youth into the military. And he agreed not to break away from the coalition at a time when Israel was about to face a massive war with a powerful foe in Iran. So Netanyahu has used various maneuvers and manipulations to keep his coalition together, but behind it, the backdrop for all of it is regional war. So Netanyahu needs regional warfare to continue perpetually in order to keep himself in power, which means that his throne as the king of Israel, the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, is bathed in bloodshed.
The president that you referred to, Donald Trump, who's saying he wants to broker a peace between the ally that he supports to the nth degree and the other ally that he brought to power in Damascus just a few months ago. He is now, according to the latest poll I just read, at historic lows. Never in neither his first term nor in the last 6 months of this second term, he has never been lower in the public opinion ratings, in the approval ratings. And there must be many reasons for that. One will be the unprovoked attack on Iran. The other will be the ongoing genocide in Gaza. But a major one, you would have thought, is this extraordinary volte-face on the issue of Epstein. How are you reading how that's all going?
Well, there have been so many betrayals, and while the poll numbers nationally do not reflect this, the base of America First supporters under the age of 45 is collapsing for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump insults them day after day over the Epstein files. But it isn't just about the Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein has become this kind of proxy or stand-in for every betrayal Donald Trump has made. And Donald Trump had taken for granted that his base considered him a cult figure. There still are many who support Trump no matter what. He confused Republican members of Congress who do whatever he wants and falls into line with the activist base that showed up at the TPUSA conference up in arms about Pam Bondi's decision to not release an Epstein client list and consider the whole case closed after declaring that the files were on her desk. And now they're starting to wonder, was Donald Trump actually deeply invested with Jeffrey Epstein, either financially or personally? Were there sexual peccadillos with underage girls that Donald Trump is covering up? Is he part of the so-called pedophile elite that he was supposed to expose through the whole QAnon conspiracy? All these questions are out there, along with the question of whether Epstein was Israeli intelligence, because for some people who don't have that much political education, it's an easy way of understanding why Israel so clearly owns Donald Trump, rather than through AIPAC, Miriam Adelson, all of the points of leverage that Israel exercises over the Trump administration. So Epstein has become this kind of catch-all for Donald Trump's real identity as one of the elites, as part of the billionaire class. And there's a whole section of his activist base that is not having it anymore. And they're moving away from MAGA. They're no longer just the MAGA hat wearing yes men. They are a coalition that's America first. And Donald Trump is targeting right now one of their favorite political figures in Congress, Thomas Massie, who has also stood up against AIPAC. So there's the Iran war. There's Donald Trump now proposing offensive weapons to Ukraine when he promised to end that war. There's the attack on the Libertarian Congressman Thomas Massie. Donald Trump being obviously owned by Israel. And there's also Donald Trump proposing some kind of amnesty for restaurant workers who are undocumented, as well as hotel workers, because he seems to think that it will tank the economy to deport them all. So all of these are feeding into the Epstein furor among his own activist base, and it's not going to go away.
He seems to have lost his touch. The latest pronouncement I saw from him was that he doesn't want the support of his former friends that are upset over the Epstein affair. In a long political life, I've learned that it's not a good idea to tell people you don't want their support. As you say, it's a kind of daily insult now. He runs off at the mouth at any camera pointed in his direction, and every time he does, he's sustaining another loss. I'm beginning to wonder if this is not the second senile president in a row that you've had. Any thoughts on that?
Certainly the second president in a row we've had who struggles to form consecutive words into English language sentences. And there may be signs of senility, but I still think this is the Donald Trump we've always known, someone who has said that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Ave in New York and shoot a man in the street and his followers would still support him. And he operates under with the sense that anything he says immediately taps into the soul of America first. And now he's realizing that that's not true. But I actually don't know if he's realized that's not true. Because just yesterday, he stood on the tarmac outside Air Force One and declared that that members of his base were conspiracy theorists who were obsessed with an Epstein case that had no basis at all. And he was standing right next to the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, right in the shot. And who is Howard Lutnick? Howard Lutnick was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. They shared a wall. Their townhouse shared a wall. Howard Lutnick bought his townhouse from a trust set up by Jeffrey Epstein and his close friend and financier, Les Wexner. So the optics there were absolutely terrible, but Trump didn't care because he just takes his own base for granted. And they're now showing him that they're not members of a cult. They're not as stupid as he thought they were. And they are looking for the exit door, and he's telling them, well, fine, leave. Well, that's not any way to operate in American politics.
Or any politics. Does that exit door lead to Elon Musk and the so-called America Party? Is that even really a thing, or was that just a Twitter meme?
Yeah, that's just a phony brand that'll go nowhere. We've seen that happen with billionaires in this country again and again. Mike Bloomberg trying to start a centrist no labels party. There's no vehicle for those activist America First former Trump supporters or current Trump supporters outside the Republican Party. And that's sort of Trump's trump card. The Democrats have done the same thing with Bernie Sanders supporters after they basically stole an election from Bernie Sanders twice. I mean, they stole the Iowa caucus from him in 2020, and the primaries were heisted in 2016 through various tricks. And then they'll tell them, well, if you don't vote for us, abortion will become illegal, and this crazy orange fascist will be in power. And then they all fall into line. So that's where the two-party system obstructs anyone from actually getting the results they wanted. And they, they realized they were conned. They've been bamboozled. They've been subjected to a bait and switch. But at the end of the day, when the midterms roll around in 2026, or Trump appoints his next successor, probably J.D. Vance in 2028, they'll all fall back into line over cultural issues.
Now, let's turn to the big enchilada, or the biggest of these many big enchiladas, the turn on the Ukraine conflict. Having said that it was Biden's war, that he would never have gotten into it, that he would finish it so quickly, before you could say Jack Robinson, he was going to have the whole thing over. He's now made it Trump's war, hasn't he? The announcements he made on Monday, together with the threat of international economic warfare, with 100% tariffs, secondary tariffs on any country doing business with Russia. This can only bring global economic chaos, and the weapons he's supplying can only increase the danger of World War III. He was taped saying that he threatened both Putin and Xi Jinping with bombing the SH-1T out of their capital cities. Then he denied that he said it, and now the audio has been released of him saying it. These are dangerous times, Max, no?
Very dangerous, and especially with the leadership in NATO and Mark Rutte referring to Trump as daddy and really behaving that way, directing NATO states to basically pay into U.S. weapons companies as a sort of a backdoor deal to Trump, because these are Trump's biggest donors. And they themselves are getting massive kickbacks and corporate welfare from Trump's BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, with the same initials as Biden's Build Back Better domestic funding bill. This was Biden's war. Biden played a seminal role in setting the stage for the Ukraine proxy war. But now that Trump has inherited it, he's getting applause from Biden's camp, from mainstream corporate media in the U.S., from the Democratic Party, which is not actually a real opposition party. It's also the party of war. And Trump doesn't understand how deal-making works on the diplomatic stage. He only understands force with weaker adversaries. And Russia is not a weaker adversary. Russia has deterrence. Russia's winning on the battlefield. And that's why Trump is resorting to this such desperate behavior that the Financial Times has reported that Trump, in a phone call with Zelensky, asked him, can you hit Moscow and St. Petersburg if we send you the weapons? Zelensky is openly lobbying for Tomahawk missiles with a 1,600-kilometer range, something the Pentagon has previously opposed. So we are in very dangerous times. Donald Trump thinks that the same dynamic with Iran, where he warned them that if you don't make the deal on my terms, I will attack you, is in play here with Russia. And Russia will not play Donald Trump's game. They don't have to.
Well, if they don't, then if approximately 50 days from now, maybe 49 or 48 days from now, it's unleashed the dogs of economic war. This must only hasten the day when the BRICS, in which half the world's wealth is reposed, hasten the day when they opt out of the
Well, it simply has to. It simply has to. We haven't even seen the coming war with China escalate yet, but it is coming. There are people in the Trump administration who are preparing for this, like Elbridge Colby, who actually wants to pivot away from Russia in order to wage war on China. Philippines is being brought in as a major U.S. proxy. And when that takes place, I think all bets are off on the dollar-dominated financial system. But BRICS it needs to get out ahead of it. There are many fractures within BRICS. I mean, we saw that Vladimir Putin wasn't even able to attend the recent BRICS conference in Brazil. Xi also did not attend. And the role of Modi as a close U.S. ally creates a lot of fractures, but it seems inevitable with the way the U.S. is behaving, not just militarily towards Russia or threatening China, but also diplomatically with the amount of diplomatic cover it's providing to Israel, to the point where the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, was in the courtroom earlier today in the not in the witness gallery, in the gallery supporting Benjamin Netanyahu. That level of support for this genocidal rogue state has utterly shredded the so-called rules-based order that has prevailed since World War II. So I think the empire is living on borrowed time at this point.
Inshallah, as they say in the East. Thank you very much indeed, Max Blumenthal, as always, for that tour of the horizon. Max Blumenthal, author, journalist, editor at the Grayzone News. Let's take a quick break, then it's your calls coming next. Stay tuned. Let's go to our old friend Declan in Dublin, who's online too. Go ahead, Declan.
Right, George. There's a very big protest in the town of Tybay, the last Christian village on the West Bank. If they lose this, they are finished in the Holy Land. I'd like to take the chance to salute Francesca Albanese, who is the greatest woman, I think, of our generation. And the hope is that there are other Francesca Albaneses out there who will do something, because the Western churches, the Catholic Church especially, and the other main churches are doing absolutely nothing for their co-religionists in the Holy Land, just like they did nothing for them in Syria or in Iraq.
They don't even talk about them, never mind do anything. And all these Christian politicians, and all these Christian leaders, and most of the Christian clergy haven't done or said even jack to come to their aid. They're not Christians, most of these politicians. When they say they're Christians, better count your spoons, or better still, count the burning Christian houses.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Well, this is a very big poll tonight. Who should get the Nobel Peace Prize, Donald Trump or Francesca Albanese? It's turning into a rout on Telegram. 3% Donald Trump, 97% Francesca. On X, 14% Donald Trump, 86% Francesca Albanese. On the YouTube community poll, it's 6 against 94. And on the YouTube stream, 5 against 95. So let's turn this into a big opinion poll, a big rally of support for Francesca Albanese's nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Get voting on Telegram, on X, on the YouTube community poll, or on the YouTube stream. Let's go to the first call of the evening from Canada. Amy wants to talk about Trump and Epstein. Go ahead, Amy.
Yes, hi, George. Hi to your team and hi to the listeners. Hi. Yes, I wanted to talk about Epstein because this is really ridiculous. This is a very serious affair. This is a very serious case, and they make it like it's a big joke. It's been like everything is documented. We have all the proofs. We don't even need the files anymore because everything is out there. You have the testimonies of the victims and everything. And I don't know how people are still in place. Nobody is in prison, and I don't understand. And how come Trump? How come the MAGA people? They can. I would kill him. I wouldn't kill myself, but I was so disappointed about that because people believed in him. I'm not voting. I don't believe in voting, but the people who voted for him, I would be so outraged. I would go in the street and demand his resignation because he ran on that. He promised them he would release the file. I didn't believe anything of what he said. And I'm not a Democrat either, but the lies are so through the roof. I don't know how people can stay like this in the U.S. and don't say anything. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And they're doing like, the Pizzagate. I think you remember that story 10 or 15 years ago. Everything was out there. Hillary Clinton was implicated and nothing happened. We don't need proof anymore. And I'm not that old, but in the 80s, it wouldn't happen like that. In the 80s or even in the 70s, people would resign over less than that. But today, everything goes. Nothing happens. The media lies. They say, there's nothing to see. Go away. And nobody says anything. So they can get away with murder. And this is what it's concerning to me because we're talking about children.
Maybe they have gotten away with murder. It seems to me pretty obvious that either Epstein is still alive or more likely Epstein was murdered in his prison cell. And that is a very significant part of the Epstein affair. But we have no clarity or truth about that at all. Nobody was at his funeral. Nobody. We have no pictures of him in the coffin. We have only a partially concealed picture of a prisoner on a gurney being wheeled out, apparently dead. But many people have pointed out very important dissimilarities between the facial features of the man on the gurney and real life Jeffrey Epstein. Now, people said, they wouldn't have been able to get him out of the jail given the cameras, though we were told the cameras all broke down at the material moment. We were told that the guards had gone to sleep at the material moment. Two unlikelihoods, and doubly unlikely that both would happen together. And then we were given a piece of video by the US government which purported to show the door of Epstein's cell and nobody going into it and nobody coming out of it. But then, because we live in a time where some very, very clever people are able to analyze things electronically very quickly and undeniably, we were told that actually there was a 1 minute breakdown in the camera, a glitch, which the US government then said was a daily occurrence. In a high security prison, we're asked to believe that there was a security camera which every night at the same time breaks down for fully 1 minute while it rewinds like, a videotape from the 1980s to which you referred. So in this digital age, we have a daily glitch of 1 minute, during which time anything can happen, and there would be no video of it. But even more clever people, with the benefit of a day or two, have established not only was the glitch 1 minute, it was 2 minutes and 53 seconds. In other words, almost 3 minutes. Ample time for someone to enter the cell, murder the prisoner, exit the cell before the camera could capture them. But moreover, these very clever people have exposed the fact that quite apart from the nearly 3-minute absence of any film at all, the film that the US government released had been multiply edited in different formats and showed signs of extreme interference. Now, interference at the extreme end in a piece of film that was released by the US government to exculpate them. See, we told you, there's nothing to see here. But what they released to show that there was nothing to see here actually ends up showing there's plenty to suspect here, even if yet we cannot see it. Now, I have never wanted to believe that Epstein was still alive, although I was greatly interested in the fact that his American Virgin Isles bank account continues to operate and that hundreds of millions of dollars have flowed through it. I'm talking almost $750 million has gone in and out of Jeffrey Epstein's bank account in the American Virgin Islands long after he was dead. But if he's not still alive, it is now overwhelmingly likely, as the doctor, respected doctor, who formerly was an interlocutor with the great Judge Andrew Napolitano, that doctor was right, that all the signs on the body were not signs of having hanged himself with paper towels, not making that up, paper sheets, but were signs of homicide with bones that were broken that could not have been broken by strangulation, by paper sheets. So it's overwhelmingly likely that Epstein was murdered in a US penitentiary. Who would want to murder him? And why? As a precursor to the whole matter being declared closed as soon as we were getting ready to accept it. My only difference with you, Amy, would be this, and believe me, I'm not saying it in defense of Trump, not at all. It seems unlikely to me that Trump and all his supporters and families would have gone on ad nauseum about the Epstein affair if they had known that their father was going to be implicated in it. Which means one of two things. Either that Donald Trump is not implicated in the video, but others are. The video's taken by the FBI from Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. Either Trump is not implicated, or he only learned that he was implicated at the very last minute. And hence, he had to pull the rug from the Epstein affair with all of the potentially disastrous consequences for his presidency. Amy, in Canada, thanks for that call. You can also send me comments on YouTube. If you scan the QR code now, leave a comment on the YouTube stream. James O'Neill has done that. I believe Trump has recently found out he had a bit part in a porn flick. A small bit part, I think, James. And KJ says if Trump releases the files, the next time Mossad tries to assassinate him, it won't be a warning. Whatever happened to the guy who came so close to murdering Donald Trump at Butler, PA? Whatever happened? Why do I know less about him than I know about the latest K-pop star singing You're My Little Soda Pop? Why do I know more about You're My Little Soda Pop and its progenitors than I do about the guy that drew blood in broad daylight by firing a bullet into the face of the man who was about to be the President of the United States? Is that not suspicious? I know nothing about him, know nothing about his motives, haven't seen his manifesto, know nothing about his associates or who he was in touch with in the minutes and hours and days before he came so close to changing the entire course of world history. Is that not a bit suspicious? Just saying. Ian McKillop says Trump doesn't want anyone to see him naked. Can't say I do either. Oh, Ian, you've put an image in my mind that's going to be difficult to shake off. Hezekiah says, let Trump sanction everyone. The US citizens will suffer and have to pay high prices or do without. Then pandemonium will ensue. Good point. And Darrell Ernst says, I think you're wrong on Trump and Epstein. Trump knew all along he wasn't going to release the information. He just said what he knew would get him elected, like any other political criminal. You may be right, Darrell, you may be right. Rob is in London on Christian Zionists. Go ahead, Rob.
Good evening, Mr. Galloway. I would like to thank you for allowing me to share your stage, however briefly, and forgive me for diverting the discussion ever so slightly tonight. I would like to discuss a very important point and offer a suggestion, if you allow me. I would like first to discuss my fellow Palestinians who live within the borders of the Zionist states. They are a muffled voice. They are living essentially like showcase pieces for Israelis, and paraded by Zionists as a proof for their slogan that they are a democracy. However, if these Palestinians decide to speak up and express their true thoughts, they face severe punishment. As we witnessed in Haifa, in the city of Haifa a few years ago, when groups of settlers attacked the city, while police assisted them. I do fear for my family in that when and if they are finished with Gaza and the West Bank, they will turn in vicious manners inwards. Another point is that the Zionists have transformed our conflict into a religious one, and our Muslim brothers and sisters have fallen for this one. Now, we call ourselves Palestinians and we don't call ourselves Muslims or Christians, so that's very important to mention. In regards to Christian Zionists, my suggestion is to stop calling them Christians, as they do not follow any of Christ's teachings at all. And in fact, they are just a political movement, more or less. And that's my piece. Thank you.
Well, it's a very good piece. I happen to know the Palestinians living in what we call the 1948 borders, before the 1967 war vastly expanded Israeli territory, and before many wars that subsequently happened expanded it even more, though never enough for the blood and land thirsty settler mentality of Israel. But I have traveled widely in Nazareth in particular. I have met some of the great figures, leaders, historic leaders of the 1948 Palestinians. And you're right that they are living on borrowed time. And after October 7, we saw the settlers turn on them, Israeli citizens, with Israeli passports, with cars with Israeli number plates, with the right to equal treatment before the law on paper. They were pogromed. And that pogrom could have become one of the bloodiest events in recent history. The gates held of the Christian school, in which a huge number of people were trapped with a baying mob of murderous armed settlers seeking to get inside and massacre them. The unspoken intention of the Abraham Accords was a land swap whereby the Galilee and Nazareth would somehow be swapped to a Palestinian entity, which would not be a state, which would be under Israeli sovereignty and would have no foreign policy, no military capability, no defense policy. They want to get rid of the 1 million or so Palestinian resident citizens of Israel. Now that the Abraham Accords have stalled, you might say gone into a tailspin, it remains to be seen whether that so-called land swap would ever in the end occur. In any case, the Palestinian population of Israel is not just the people who are in it, but the people who have a legal right to return to it, who own land in it, to which they are not permitted to return, and for which they have never even been offered, let alone accepted, any compensation for the land that was stolen from them. So my position is clear, I hope, Rob, and on Friday evening I'll be launching a new organization called One State Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews will live as equal citizens under the law. That one state, the Holy Land State, is the only way in which this whole affair can be brought to conclusion, short of one side being in a position to literally annihilate the entirety of the other side. And that, I think, is beyond either side. So I'll come back to that meeting in a minute, give you more details, but my colleague Chris Williamson and I and other speakers will be launching One State Palestine on Friday. Now, let's look at the biggest donors this week who visited the MOATS.tv website. Jane Allison, Emmanuel Ben Israel, Emmanuel Suarez dos Santos, Ayaz Anwari, and Terry Dawkins. Thank you all for your most generous donations, and please, before you leave me tonight, make sure you've left your donation on MOATS.tv, even if it's only $1, €1, or £1. Now, coming up after the break, Seán Murray, the much decorated and highly regarded film and documentary maker, who directed the film Killing Kelly, with which Gayatri and I were associated. We were, in fact, the producers. It was a stunning documentary, thanks to Seán Murray, and we made it together, about the mysterious death of Dr. David Kelly. Sadly, there are people now so young, they don't even remember who Dr. David Kelly was, but you're going to tonight, because not only am I interviewing Seán Murray, the director, at 9:15 tonight, we are going to launch a free premiere of the film on my YouTube channel. Be more about that later. But before we speak to Seán, here's a clip from the documentary. Take a look.
At shortly before 8:30 a.m., Thames Valley Police publicised Dr. Kelly's disappearance. At approximately 8:45 a.m., searchers Paul Chapman and Louise Holmes discovered the body of Dr. David Kelly at Harrowdownhill. The discovery was logged at 9:20 a.m. Tony Blair was informed of the death by his advisor, Sir David Manning, who was also on the flight to Tokyo. And in an extraordinary turn of events, the Prime Minister ordered a public inquiry sometime between 10 and 11:05 a.m. before the cause of death had even been declared. At 2:35 p.m., the delegation arrived in Tokyo to awaiting reporters.
Have you got blood on your hands, Prime Minister? Are you going to resign over this?
It's a great film. You're going to enjoy it, and for free. This is the DVD. If you want a keepsake, if you've still got a DVD player, we've unfortunately still got quite a few of those left. There's also the incredible poster from which this cover is drawn. It's a work of great art, as indeed is the film. It is the death anniversary tomorrow of Dr. David Kelly. Let's talk about him and what he represented with Seán Murray, the Irish film and documentary maker. Seán, great to see you again. Just to save me doing it, perhaps a recap for younger viewers on the significance of the events covered in the film, if you would.
Well, I think, as a documentary maker, as a journalist, I think there's a moral duty to get involved in projects like this. And I think it was we had a real task ahead of us, because in events like this, it's not with so much cover-up involved around the death and the official narrative that was pushed. What you have to do in situations like this is basically expose all the anomalies around Dr. David Kelly's death, and I think that's what we've done significantly in the film.
We're in the Epstein affair at the moment. There are some similarities. It's a mysterious death that nobody actually believes. And Kelly's was like that even from the beginning. Not many people believed the official narrative even back then, and fewer still believe it today, not least because of the succession of scandals, murders, disappearances, assassinations. The British state killed itself. Whoever killed David Kelly, the British state killed itself with the Iraq War, don't you think?
Well, it certainly did. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank you for putting the film on tonight, George, for free, because I mean, even having watched it back earlier, this is something that brought back a lot of memories for me. I mean, during the research, I was, with all the knowledge I have and with all the research that I've been involved in around the conflict in Ireland, around state killings in Ireland, the death of Dr. David Kelly was something that seriously surprised me. I mean, the amount of anomalies, what had happened in the Hutton inquiry and how it went further than even a whitewash. And just the fact that somebody as highly decorated as Dr. David Kelly, and someone, as many would say, was on the verge of a knighthood, that he was expendable to the British state. I mean, what does that mean for us mere mortals, you know? So I think the film does a good job in pulling all that together and you know, letting the audience know how deep the British state does go to push for events like we're that's outplaying now in the case of the genocide in Gaza, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it was a commonplace. I even said it myself, though usually quickly correcting myself. It was said or believed by many people that whilst the British state has been involved in atrocities on a grand scale abroad, they were unlikely to murder a decorated, high-profile British scientist in the woods in Oxfordshire. And that was widely believed, perhaps is still widely believed. But of course, for the time being at least, the 6 counties of the north of Ireland are part of the British state, and killings and collusion in murder was commonplace in the north of Ireland over decades. So although it was a surprise that it happened in Oxfordshire, it isn't really a surprise that it happened in the UK, is it?
No, we're well informed about state killings here and the death squads that Britain run here in the north of Ireland. And something, when I reflect back and I look at the phrase, many dark actors are at play, I'm subphrasing what Dr. Kelly had said himself. It brought me back to the event when Geraldine Finucane, the lawyer Pat Finucane, who was killed by the British state through collusion with loyalist paramilitaries, who had met David Cameron in London. And when she requested from David Cameron an independent inquest into her husband's death, David Cameron bent forward and said, the people around these four walls would never allow this. And that brought it back to me what David Kelly had said and saying many dark actors are at play here, So, yes, we are well aware in the north of Ireland of the lengths of what the British state will go to murder innocent civilians. But again, if Dr. David Kelly, a highly decorated member of you could say the British establishment, if he was expendable, what are the rest of us,
Yeah, the reason I say that the British state committed suicide with the Iraq war is because of my now quite advanced feeling that all of our institutions in which people believed in before, whether they ought to have believed in them or not is another matter, but all of the things we believed in, the role of Parliament, the role of telling the truth at the dispatch box, the role of the civil service, neutral British civil service, bowler hat, pinstripes, umbrella and unimpeachable, the role of judges like Lord Hutton, the role of the media like television and newspapers. All of the authority of all of these institutions began its precipitous decline after the Iraq War, after it was discovered that the Iraq War was a pack of lies for which 1 million people paid with their lives, and people are still paying with their lives, even today.
Yeah, George, I mean, that was 2003. If we forward a bit, we're now in 2025. I think what has happened with the period now, the proliferation of digital media has changed everything. I think that the government, in trying to push for war and the lies that were quickly found out around that, and thanks to David Kelly and thanks to good journalists that were there at the time, I think the ability to tell those lies that the establishment governments in the West, that they see that there's a kind of, I like to call it a more democratic ability for people to find the truth through digital media, through social media. And we see what has happened since October the 7th in Gaza is that they don't even try anymore. That veil has slipped. We're seeing genocide in real time. They don't care. We know about the survey planes through great journalism, through declassified, etc. We know that they're arming the state of Israel during a live event genocide. And the British government, particularly it has hastened since Keir Starmer. And the British police state has hastened since Keir Starmer. They don't care about the public anymore. They don't even attempt to cover up the lies. It's, as I had said with regards to Dr. David Kelly's death, we're mere mortals. It never matters anymore. We are witnessing one of the worst events since the Second World War, a genocide, a live genocide, and there's nothing being done about it at all.
Now, we were very lucky to have you as our director on your way up. You're well up now. Since the film was made, you've won all kinds of awards, and you've moved on not just to new fields, but to a new genre. You're actually making drama now as well as documentary. And I've seen some clips from your forthcoming film. Tell us a bit about that, would you?
Yeah, well, Lost City is basically it's a film about post-ceasefire Belfast or post-ceasefire Ireland, if you like. And it's a kind of a dark love story set in the criminal underworld. So it kind of merges the criminal underworld in the south of Ireland with the politics of the north. And I've been writing that film for a couple of years now, and it's came to fruition. And over this last couple of days, it has we've got real good news in pushing the film forward. So we are finishing off filming over the next couple of months and hope to have the film released early in the new year.
Look forward to it. Don't forget our ticket for the premiere. Seán Murray, as always, deeply grateful, not just for this interview, but for everything that we have done together. Seán Murray, film and documentary maker, and now moving into the field of drama. Can't wait to see that film. I've seen some clips. Seán's actually a kind of dark actor in it also, as well as being the film's maker. Who should get the Nobel Peace Prize? Donald Trump or Francesca Albanese? 45,680 people have voted. That is very, very high. And the margin of support for Francesca Albanese is enormous. So if you want Francesca Albanese to get the Nobel Peace Prize, get voting on this poll, because I tell you, this is such a victory for her. It's bound to be noticed. Now, I'll tell you more about how you can watch Killing Kelly in just a moment. But before that, here's another clip from the documentary. Take a look.
After February 2003, when it became clear to everybody that the government was now plagiarising material from the internet to justify its case for war, that meant that the role of the weapons inspectors, both internationally, and Hans Blix and indeed David Kelly in this country, became more important. They were going to be the neutral voices. But the neutral voices, of course, were not saying what the government was saying. They were saying something rather different. And therefore, they had to be smothered in some way, or discouraged, or discredited if necessary. And that's what happened with David Kelly. David Kelly was the expert in this country who could have proved very decisively that what the government was saying was untrue and exaggerated.
As the case for war ratcheted up, US intelligence were also keen to distort any information it received to push the case for war. Its golden egg came in the form of one Rafid Ahmed Alwan al-Janabiya, otherwise known as Agent Curveball, a former Iraqi chemical engineer who sought asylum in Germany in 1999. He was quickly recruited by German secret intelligence, who, after much deliberation, became increasingly wary of the veracity of the information they were receiving from their prized asset. The US was less concerned and was eager to deploy whatever information it could to skew the narrative in order to remove Saddam. In an off-the-record interview with the Observer newspaper, David Kelly challenged US intelligence that they'd found evidence of mobile biological laboratories in Iraq. They are not mobile germ warfare laboratories, Kelly said. You could not use them for making biological weapons. They do not even look like them. They are exactly what the Iraqis said they were: facilities for the production of hydrogen gas to fill balloons. Facilities which, incidentally, had been sold to the Iraqis by the United Kingdom. Of all the evidence compiled about Saddam Hussein, the accusations about germ warfare had been the most compelling. Curveball had provided this evidence, despite German misgivings to the contrary. Despite reservations to the authenticity of this false intelligence, the director of the CIA, George Tenet, pressed ahead. The stage was now set.
The United States reserves the right to do what it thinks is appropriate to defend its interest, the interest of its friends, and to protect the world. And I'm quite confident we'll be joined by many nations.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign. More than 35 countries are giving crucial support, from the use of naval and air bases to help with intelligence and logistics to the deployment of combat units. Every nation in this coalition has chosen to bear the duty and share the honor of serving in our common defense.
Now you can see the whole film for free tonight, straight after MOATS, on my YouTube channel. Search for George Galloway Official. You'll find the thumbnail saying starting soon, and the film will go on air and be live forevermore at 9:15 p.m. UK time. I do hope that you enjoy it. And a big thanks again to Dr. Seán Murray, as he is now. Mahad is in Toronto and wants to talk about Epstein. Go ahead, Mahad.
Hello, George. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for having me on your show.
Good, thank you.
So first of all, I just want to say I've been following you for some time. So the work you're doing, keep it up. Thank you for bringing the truth about all the topics. Now, coming back for the reason for this call. So basically, with all this Epstein and Trump issue that has been going on, it's got me thinking. So before, during the election, when Trump was campaigning and he was talking about how he's going to release the files and how he's going to, all the redacted names are going to get out there. So if he knew he was involved in it, and, let's be honest, if Donald Trump had been on the island, whether or not he did commit the act or not, wouldn't he be much more careful? Because now what we're seeing is he's trying to, like you said, he's trying to pull the rug from the whole issue. So if he knew that if he was going to release the file and release everyone's names in it, and he himself had been on the island and had committed the acts, which I don't like mentioning, with minors, wouldn't he be more careful? And let's say he did not commit anything he did not go on the island or did not commit any of these acts. What is it that Trump is so scared of? What is it that they have about Trump? What information could they have that he's so hesitant to reveal the files? And do you think because of all this Epstein issue, he might have also retracted his stance on Russia and the Ukraine war?
On the last point, that's very easy. He is distracting public attention from a deeply, deeply damaging division over Epstein with foreign wars. I mean, this latest turn on Ukraine is a wag the dog moment. If you've seen the Dustin Hoffman picture, Wag the Dog, this is precisely it. Just as Bill Clinton before killed a friend of mine, the most celebrated woman artist in the Arab world, Dr. Leila Al-Attar, she was murdered by a cruise missile attack launched by Bill Clinton to take the public attention away from the semen stain on Monica Lewinsky's dress. I'm not making any of that up. That really happened. And so I've got no doubt that this new belligerence against Russia is intimately connected with his need to get everyone looking over there instead of looking at his conduct over the Epstein affair. I tend to your point of view, but not everyone does. We just read out a message from one of our viewers that Trump was never going to release these files. He was never going to tell us the truth about what happened under Epstein. He merely pretended to do so, to hype up his supporters and win the victory that put him back in the White House. And that's a perfectly respectable, perfectly believable, legitimate cast of mind. But I tend to be with you that if Trump had known that the Epstein files would turn out to be unreleasable because of the sheer damage that they would do to the American state, and particularly the extent to which America is dominated in its political process and in its media class by a foreign country, by Israel. I suspect that my best reading, my most charitable reading, would be that Donald Trump found the files to be unreleasable because of the damage they would do to the special relationship between the United States and Israel. Equally, at the very last minute, he could have been shown, perhaps by Netanyahu himself, shown evidence that placed him in such a discreditable light that he might well have been forced to stand down as president, that he might well have faced, after leaving office, a criminal prosecution. He might have ended behind bars after all, because the kind of things that we were told by, amongst others, the current Attorney General, who now says there are no files. We were told by her that there were thousands of hours of truly obscene and pornographic things, often including minors, children. And you can't have sex with a minor. If you have sex with a minor, you raped that minor. And so it might very well be that either Donald Trump or people close to him were so damaged by any such release that he could not, in fact, release it. The one thing I'm certain of is that Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. He either was whacked in the jail cell, as Robert Maxwell had been whacked before off the back of his yacht, or he is still alive and operating that account in the American Virgin Islands. Mahad in Toronto, thanks for that call. 47,000 people have now voted, and overwhelmingly for Francesca Albanese. We must send the results of this poll to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. So in the next 15 minutes, make this vote as big as it can possibly be. Let's get it up to 50,000, shall we? If you haven't voted yet, who should get the Nobel Peace Prize? Donald Trump or Francesca Albanese? Now, on the podcast, we've been in the top 25 for politics in Ireland, Norway, Egypt, and Tunisia this week, a top 40 in Japan and Australia. You can download the MOATS podcast by scanning the QR code on your screen now. Please do. You can thank me later. And a big hello to all my friends in Tanzania and in Kuwait, where recently we have been experiencing a steep rise in audience in both those places. Majid is on the line in Blackburn about change in Britain. Let's go for it. Majid, what would you like to say?
Hi, George. Long time no speak. I don't know if you remember, I came to see you once when you were in Rochdale campaigning.
Okay, good. Nice to hear from you.
You as well. Right. My idea is this, that basically, look, government's not working for the people. We could have had free electricity 120 years ago with Tesla. Nikola Tesla, sorry. Yet here we are, 120 years later, still paying for electricity, being one of our main worries at this time, and the energy crisis. And the government really does nothing for us.
No. This government's a disaster, Majid. It's the most disastrous government we've ever had.
You're right there. I would suggest that the new party that is being made by Jeremy Corbyn make everything transparent. Make government donations transparent, spending on all public on the blockchain, root out corruption completely. Make voting easy on urgent matters.
We're all in favour of that.
Immediately.
And,
mandatory for MPs.
Well, this
if a
party
taxi driver has to have a DBS check.
Yeah. What about political leaders? Well, look, Majid,
we need people like Mandoni. So we should do a Britain's Got Talent for a prime minister, for people to come forward with ideas and say how would they fix the country, how would they save money. To be honest, all this mess was created by the Tories.
No, I don't agree that it was created by the Tories. The Tories and Labour are the same thing. They are two cheeks of the same backside, following the same economic policies, following the same foreign policies. They are a uni party. So I don't accept that these problems were begun by the Tories. They were begun by Margaret Thatcher, sure, in her election in 1979, but that was 46 years ago. And every single government that we've had in the last 46 years has been effectively following the Thatcherite prescription of free market capitalism at home and imperialist war abroad. And we are against both of them. And I hope that you will join us from Blackburn in joining that great campaign. The new party of which you speak has not yet formed, and indeed has gone pretty quiet since what can only even charitably be described as a bit of a damp squib launch, a premature launch in the announcement by Zara Sultana, which Jeremy Corbyn did not want made. So it still remains to be seen what it is, if anything, is going to be launched. I express the strongest possible wish, hope, that it is a coalition, that it is a popular front of the kind that Jean-Luc Mélenchon launched in France, so that all political forces, all socialist and radical organizations can all march behind Jeremy Corbyn, who will stand at the front with its banner. He has to lead it, but it should not be, in my opinion, a party, because once it becomes a party, everyone has to agree on its policies, whereas an alliance can have a very limited number of immediate demands that can unite the maximum number of people, the broadest possible coalition of people, so that we don't have to get into areas that will divide us and will make it possible, more possible, for people like the Green Party, for example, to be involved, to make it more possible for people like the Workers' Party to be involved. So I very much hope that it's a coalition. But if it is not a coalition, then I hope, and I again extend this olive branch to Mr. Corbyn here, that we can have an electoral agreement so that we don't end up fighting each other in the same constituencies on the same ballot paper. Because the only person that would benefit from that is Keir Starmer. Now, all it takes is £1 or $1 or €1 to support the mother of all talk shows. It's hugely appreciated. A big shout out, though, to tonight's top donors who've already been on to the MOATS.tv website since we came on air. N. Chaudhry, Muzaffar Ali, Lawrence Green, Judith Stevenson, and Philip Price. Thank you for your great generosity, and please, everyone else, leave something. Stephen is in the north of Ireland on the US military. Go ahead, Stephen.
How you doing, George?
By the grace of God, good, my friend. What do you want to say?
I've been brought up in Northern Ireland since the Troubles. Known nothing but the Troubles. Like you know, there was 16,000, 18,000 troops in Northern Ireland. Everybody's talking. I watch you, I watch The Judge, I watch Ritter, I watch all talk shows, and everybody's talking about World War III. And it's not like World War II, where you can take over the QE2 and stick on 40,000 troops. Like World War II. Just put on a life vest, take your chance, get them across the channel. Trump is on about Taiwan. Taiwan is like Gibraltar. It's a small, insignificant piece of rock. And he is willing to go to World War III over this island. But how are they going to get the troops from America, which we watched the last, or the two, I watched it. I watched you in Moscow. I watched the Moscow parades live, actually. And they marched well. You watch the Americans, 250 years. Those people don't want to fly to Taiwan and die. And in the last Gulf War, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't even have the troops. They took the, what do you call them, the holiday soldiers, you know, the weekend soldiers. Because they didn't have, like, companies of Marines and Army. And they shipped them out to Iraq and whatnot to die.
I think we get your drift, and it's certainly a drift in the correct direction, Stephen. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what World War III would look like. First of all, it would be over extremely quickly. There would be no troops. There would be nobody being shipped to any front. There would be no front. If World War III begins, it will very rapidly turn into a nuclear exchange. And in that nuclear exchange, millions of people will die. And if that nuclear exchange were to continue to escalate into an all-out intercontinental ballistic missile war, then 95% of the world's population would die. They would die either from the nuclear blast, from the nuclear fallout and the radiation, from the nuclear winter that would make all farming impossible, perhaps for centuries. 95% of the world's population would cease to exist, and very quickly indeed. The people who did not die in the blast would be wishing that they had died in the blast. Britain would literally have turned to coal. We've got 1,000 years of coal under our feet, as you know, but that the entire island would look like burnt coal. We would be literally incinerated by one of the Russian Federation's main nuclear missiles, a thermonuclear and hypersonic missile that simply could not be stopped. And hiding under your bedroom desk, or hiding under your stairs, or hiding in an outbuilding will do you no good at all. You will not survive it. You could not survive it. One Russian missile, which was split up into 8 different warheads, each of them 1,000 times more powerful than the nuclear bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Think of that bomb and think 1 1,000 times more powerful, and think of 8 of them falling on this tiny island with no ability to defend ourselves. Sure, our leaders would fire nuclear weapons at Russia and China, and they would kill millions of people too. But there's far more of them than there are of us. And it would be little consolation as you saw your wife bursting into flames in front of you, as you saw your children turning to a shadow on the wall, a smear of scorched flesh. It would be scant consolation to you that somebody else was suffering the same fate in Moscow, because there are too many fantasists who think it's going to be a rerun of World War I or World War II, that it's going to be fought by conscripts, that it's going to be fought by people with tin hats and clutching carbines. It's not. Such people would never even make it to whatever that front was, whether it was Finland, whether it was Latvia, Lithuania, whether it was Poland, wherever the hostilities began. It would quickly become a nuclear exchange, which, if it escalated beyond the battlefield and the intermediate range, nuclear missiles would quickly consume the whole of the world. Stephen, thanks for your call. Mr. Fun says, I wonder if Scott Ritter ever rubbed shoulders with David Kelly. To my memory, he did indeed. They did know each other. Kurt Boss says, Kelly proved there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and was killed by MI6. And Mr. Fun says, Tony Blair wasn't just responsible for the death of David Kelly, he was responsible for the final loss of faith in the democratic political system. Indeed, that's my view. Britain died at the Iraq War for me. Now, who should get the Nobel Peace Prize? Keep voting for another couple of minutes, but 47,624 of you already have. Ryan is in Canada on Epstein. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, George. Good to talk to you. Just wanted
and you, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we're all listening.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of caught me off guard there, because I was going to talk about Epstein, but I couldn't help but to hear about the nuclear weapons, and it just made me think that we could be making the planet way more fruitful with all this technology than going to war with everyone. So that point just being there.
Sure. This could be the Garden of Eden. If you look at it from one of Musk's spaceships, it looks like the Garden of Eden. Unfortunately, it is not down below.
And speaking of Elon Musk, he kind of kicked this whole Epstein thing off. And, one of the things that he alluded to on many podcasts was that he believes there's a death cult running things behind the scenes. And, basically that's, the conclusion why I think, they don't arrest anybody, because the whole ball of yarn would just unravel. And then next thing you know, you get Fauci, he's in there, creating COVID, and Gates is in there creating the vaccines and, the lockdowns and so on. So, that's...
Well, I think we're led to that speculation ineluctably. Everybody knows there is an Epstein file. Everybody knows that it was on the AG's desk. Everybody knows that thousands of hours of obscene movies shot in every room in Epstein's house. Everybody knows about the hundreds and hundreds of people who cavorted with Epstein on his private island. Everybody knows all these things. To now ask people to accept that there is no evidence that any of this ever happened is asking so much that only the blind fool could possibly accept it, could possibly believe it. So ineluctably you're led, Ryan, to the conclusion that it's just so bad that the current political class cannot survive its release. But if it's that bad, the current political class don't deserve to survive. If it's that bad, we need to get rid of them all, whatever colour of tie they are wearing. Thanks, Ryan, in Canada. Last call, I think, from England. Terence in Reading on Labour. On you go, Tel.
Good evening, Mr. Galloway. I trust you are well, and I hope Norman is well in Bristol. Here's me for a while. You basically touched on it earlier with Majid and about the independent voices in Parliament. You were going to be one of them. Your party's going to be there as a ginger group. And I noticed that clearly Chalmers is taking the whip off a couple of Labour MPs or whatever they're called. But that
four, I think. Yeah, four.
I believe so. And that gives opportunity and grist to the mill of your enterprise as an independent and Mr. Corbyn's hope for enterprise. He's very cagey at the moment, but he's certainly a power like yourself. Not a liar, not a thief. They're terrified of him. So thinking that there could be a big enough ginger group to sort of confederation of independents getting together, and as you said yourself, not becoming a party. But I can see the prospect of a very strong ginger group in the next year or two. What say you, Mr. Galloway?
Yes, I agree with you. Mr. Corbyn is still very popular amongst wide sections of the British population. He's a well-known figure, and that's important in politics. He has public recognition. I mean, I can't walk down any street without being stopped and selfied and handshaken and so on. Mr. Corbyn must have that plus. He's better known than me. He's more popular than me. So these are important assets in politics. He has name recognition. He has face recognition. Although he's 76, he doesn't look it, at least he doesn't look it in the sense that he's still full of beans, full of life, as indeed I am myself, 6 years younger than him. So I think that if he were to lead, as Mélenchon did in France, a broad coalition of people who agree on 5 or 6 or 8 essential policies that are necessary to take Britain out of this nosedive that we are in, hurtling towards the ground, that there will be many takers in the election in 2029 for that. In any case, what else can we do? I mean, are we going to see the country that we love destroyed by Keir Starmer with 19% of the public's vote behind him? For that's all that he had in gaining this huge parliamentary majority. Less than a third of the people who actually did vote in the election, with mass abstention making up the rest. Are we going to allow our country to be destroyed by this uni-party of Labour, Conservative and Reform? For they are indeed the first ever arse to have 3 cheeks. I'm not. Some are leaving. Some are leaving the country. Some are going to Dubai. Hundreds of thousands are going to Dubai. Some are going to Kuala Lumpur. Some are going to France. Some are going to elsewhere on the European continent. But I'm not. I will not go quietly into the night of my country's destruction. So I think we have a national obligation to the people to step forward, and step forward in good order, not to fight each other, but to fight the main enemy. And that's what I appeal to Mr. Corbyn to do. I've got to cut you off, Ter, because Gayatri is in the studio with the social media news roundup. What's happening, Gayatri?
For the country that we love. I just continue on the phrase that you've just been repeating, because this is exactly what the young student Courtney Wright thought when she appeared on Friday at her school in Warwickshire in England. In her union dress, aka think of Spice,
it was a Spice Girls
Girl,
dress.
yeah, Jerry Halliwell. So there she is.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Well, she appeared like this in her national in the colors of the British flags for Culture Day, for the Cultural Diversity Day. But guess what? She was sent home because it was unacceptable.
The British flag is unacceptable in a British school? That doesn't seem sensible.
Believe it or not. We have it as well in our school, of course, and our kids. We had it recently, and our kids appeared in our case recently. Our kids appeared in Indonesian attire. Many of them had the Scottish flag.
Celtic in Torren in a Celtic top, as I just see here.
Obviously, no objection to that. So this is really.
We have all got many identities.
Exactly. So. This is really quite outrageous, and it's got the anti-woke army up in arms. And
so what happened to her?
Well, the school. Well, she was given the option to wear her uniform or sit in isolation at the office and wait for her parents to pick her up, which was indeed the case. How stupid! The school in Warwickshire has since apologized, but this, of course, the scandal cannot be withdrawn. And I guess this is why you and I, unconsciously or deliberately, have been dressed in the flag.
This is why you told me to wear this tie.
To celebrate the colors of the British flags in solidarity with
the British
Courtney.
flag, it's the French flag, it's the American flag, red, white and blue.
Yes, exactly. So that is the case of the Union Jack Spice Girl dress that was rejected earlier. This is this is from Vivian Stevens that writes, I don't know if you've seen these images when you were speaking to Max Blumenthal earlier about how the population in Israel feels about this ongoing circus. And she says, all of this praise for the new IDF recruits burning their call papers. Sorry, but I see this as a self-preservation. Going to jail for a short period is preferable to being burned alive or blown up in a tank in Gaza.
Well, I don't care what their motives were. I just hope more and more of them do it.
Will do it and reject it and therefore build momentum, right? Now, on the Nobel Peace Prize poll that we're discussing this evening, and is at a record high.
Yeah, it's almost 50,000 now.
The question is, who should deserve it, Donald Trump or Francesca Albanese? Our audience was clear, and Graham Briggs White says, well, obviously, Francesca Albanese. Trump has U-turned on everything. He even contradicts himself in the same sentence. How does someone who behaves like a Nazi get to nominate anyone for a Peace Prize? Francesca Albanese has the courage to do her job, surrounded by sharks. And surrounded by sharks, she is indeed. Deborah Flournoy says, although Francesca Albanese deserves the prize for her courage and integrity in her fight for Palestinians, it's the Nobel Peace Prize that doesn't deserve her. She should never be counted among the likes of war criminal Kissinger and Obama, who discredited its value forever. And in the same breath, Joan Moore says the prize is no longer prestigious as they want us to believe. The very fact that Netanyahu suggested that Trump should win it, should be nominated.
He said he should get six times over.
It proves that it all is geopolitics and that the very word peace is no longer a serious goal of the Nobel Committee. Now, on this Nobel Committee, I wanted to raise and pedestal Le Duc Soc, who was the only nominee, and Vietnamese for that matter, who was given the Nobel Peace Prize, but rejected it.
Le Duc Tho.
Le Duc Tho. He was the revolutionary general during the Vietnam War.
Yes.
And he was appointed as the chief negotiator during the peace accords in France, in Paris, with Henry Kissinger, which were reached. And in 1973, they were jointly, Henry Kissinger and Le Duc Tho were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. But Le Duc Tho refused on the basis that the U.S. and the south of Vietnam violated the truce, basically, and they did.
Massacred millions of people.
That's
where I came in, you know. Long before I had children myself that looked like they could be Vietnamese, I was crying bitter tears over Vietnamese children being massacred and napalmed, chemical weaponed in the 1960s. It's been one long bloody war, actually. And Le Duc Tho was one of my early heroes. I haven't heard his name spoken in decades, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Incredible. He died not too long ago from cancer, alas. Finally, Teddy says, Trump is shutting down on the Epstein file because he intends to blackmail everyone else in it to his advantage. This Ukraine move could just be designed to frank the appearance that he's been compromised. He's a slippery customer, you see, George, and to me, it all looks just a little too staged. Bondi, Patel, Bongino going from black to white overnight. Well, that could have only happened on Trump's order. No one knows politics better than you, and Trump might now have a lot of very powerful people right there where he wants them to be. It's just another angle to think about.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who think that Donald Trump is forever playing 5D chess, but as I keep telling people, Donald Trump can't even play chess on any dimension. He can't even play checkers. He doesn't even read books. He has never read books. He has never written anything. This is a man who operated a bit like a shark on his instinct for blood, and it took him a long way. It's taken him to twice being an occupant of the White House, but he's currently being found out, I'm afraid. He's currently demonstrating that he's not actually fit for this job. He has no diplomatic or international skills in a world that is teetering dangerously on the edge of cataclysm, of catastrophe. And Donald Trump blundering around like a bull in a china shop is going to destroy everything if he's not stopped.
Indeed. It was very moving to see Dr. Seán Murray on screen again, and also clips from our documentary film. We put a lot of effort in this, and it was a very, it was a great movie following the Killingkelly, which was our first.
Well, we did the killing of Tonyblair, and then Killingkelly.
The Killing series, basically, but all crowdfunded.
We meant it to be a triptych, but we never finished the third leg. We'll get around to it.
Because it's so difficult to choose which killing, right?
There's so many killings, I
just wanted to add that obviously within 15 minutes the audience can tune in live onto our YouTube premiere. Key contributors in this documentary film are former BBC director Greg Dyke, Honourable Norman Baker, former British Member of Parliament, who has also done significant research into the strange death of Dr. Kelly, and Peter Oborn from Middle East Eye, and former MI5 officer Annie Machon.
Annie Machon, and so many others.
So many others. A very renowned vascular surgeon who gives the most important...
The most telling, of all. I mean, the one thing you'll agree at the end of this film is that the official story is definitely not true. And the clue to that, Gayatri, and we used to live very close to the National Records office at Kew, the key to it is that even the youngest child alive today will be dead before the public can have access to the evidence that's stored in the Public Records Office in Kew. If you've got to lock up the documents of a case for 100 years, you can be sure there are very, very bad secrets in there. Look, Gayatri, we've got to go now before the chip shop shuts. But a reminder that the One State Palestine
launch with me and Chris Williamson and special guests, and I'll not tell you who they are, but they're big, will take place on Friday at 7 p.m. That's Friday at 7 p.m. live on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. And there is the poster for it. So if you believe that from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free, and that Muslims, Christians, and Jews should live in that one state as equal citizens, one man, one woman, one vote, with a constitution which preserves the religious traditions of all the people who live there, you are one of ours. One state, Palestine, Friday. Good night.
It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. Go get 'em, George.